Sarah Martinez thought her nightmare was over when she boarded the flight home from London. A simple biometric error had trapped her for 18 hours, but now she was finally heading back to New York, back to her normal life. What Sarah didn't know was that her real nightmare was just beginning. As her plane descended toward JFK Airport, automated systems around the world were synchronizing her corrupted biometric profile. The woman who had left New York as a respected software engineer was about to return as something else entirely, a digital ghost trapped between borders, with no country willing to claim her. 8 hours later, Sarah finds herself back at JFK, but everything feels different now. The same terminal where she'd grabbed coffee just days earlier, the same gate areas she'd walked through without a second thought. But now, she's returning under circumstances that exist in the gray areas of international travel, neither criminal nor completely innocent in the eyes of the system. The CBP officer's confusion is genuine. Her screen shows conflicting information. Sarah's passport is legitimate, but her biometric profile carries warnings that don't quite make sense. In a system designed for efficiency and certainty, ambiguity becomes paralysis. "Miss Martinez," the officer says, settling across from her with a thick folder. "According to our records, you were detained by UK Border Force for suspected terrorist activities. Can you explain that?" Sarah stares at her, feeling like she's speaking a foreign language. "I was detained because of a computer error. I'm not a terrorist. I write code that helps banks protect people's money." Sarah calls everyone she can think of: her lawyer's voicemail, her company's emergency line, even her congressman's office. But she's caught in a digital catch-22 that no human institution seems equipped to handle. She can't leave the country because she's flagged as dangerous. She can't stay because she technically never re-entered. What's most unsettling is how reasonable everyone is about an utterly unreasonable situation. The modern travel security system has become so automated, so interconnected, that even the people operating it sometimes feel like passengers themselves, carried along by digital currents they don't fully control. Days blur together in the JFK International Transit Zone. Sarah discovers the strange ecosystem of the permanently displaced: cleaners who've seen it all, food court workers who recognize the regulars, security guards who've learned not to ask too many questions. It's a world within a world, invisible to the millions who pass through successfully. The International Transit Zone becomes Sarah's strange new world, a place between places where normal rules seem suspended. She discovers others in similar situations, travelers caught in digital limbos, their stories varying in detail, but sharing a common thread of technological confusion. There's Klaus, a German businessman who's been here for 8 days because his biometric data somehow merged with his deceased twin brothers. Maria, a Brazilian student whose student visa got revoked by an algorithm that decided her social media posts were suspicious. Each story more bizarre than the last, yet all sharing the same digital DNA. During the quiet hours past midnight, when JFK feels more like a space station drifting in the void, Sarah begins to dig deeper. She has skills, connections in the tech world, and an intimate understanding of how these systems work. What she discovers keeps her awake even when exhaustion finally wins. Using her laptop during the quiet hours, Sarah begins to notice patterns. The errors aren't random. They seem to cluster around certain types of travelers. People who work with sensitive data, who understand privacy systems, who might notice things that others wouldn't. Klaus approaches her one evening with something he's discovered. "Sarah," he whispers, "I think I know why we're here." He shows her his phone, an encrypted message he received from someone claiming to represent a group of similarly trapped travelers. The message contains a single link to a secure server. What Sarah finds on that server changes everything. Hundreds of cases, meticulously documented, software engineers, privacy researchers, cybersecurity experts, digital rights activists, all trapped in similar circumstances over the past 18 months. All people who, in their professional lives, had raised concerns about mass surveillance systems. Sarah's hands tremble as she scrolls through the data. Here's a Finnish programmer who'd written articles about facial recognition privacy concerns, trapped in Dubai for 6 weeks. A Canadian researcher who testified before Parliament about biometric database security, stuck in Frankfurt for 2 months. The pattern is undeniable. But the most chilling discovery comes when Sarah recognizes names from her own industry. Colleagues who disappeared from conferences stopped responding to emails, whose companies had quietly announced their departures for personal reasons. People she'd assumed had simply changed jobs or taken sabbaticals. That night, alone in the transit zone while security guards patrol in the distance, Sarah receives a text from an unknown number. It's simple, almost polite, but carries an unmistakable weight. Some problems solve themselves when people stop looking for solutions. Sarah spends the next 48 hours in a state of controlled panic, digging deeper into the data. She discovers communication logs, financial records, shipping manifests, all pointing to a coordinated effort to remove certain voices from the global conversation about digital privacy. But the more she learns, the more she realizes she's not just uncovering a conspiracy, she's becoming its next target. On her 25th day in digital limbo, Sarah is approached by a woman in an expensive suit who introduces herself only as Ms. Rivers. She's not airport security, not government, but something else entirely. Someone with the authority to make problems disappear. "Miss Martinez," Ms. Rivers says, settling across from Sarah in the deserted JFK food court. "You've been asking interesting questions that might be better left unanswered." She slides a tablet across the table. On the screen is a boarding pass, JFK to San Francisco, first class, leaving in 2 hours. "All you have to do," Ms. Rivers continues, "is delete what you've found, forget what you've learned, and go back to your normal life. Your biometric flags will be cleared, your reputation restored. You can even keep your job, though perhaps you might consider a different focus for your research." Sarah stares at the boarding pass, feeling the weight of impossible choices. She thinks about her sister, her life in San Francisco, the presentation she never gave. She thinks about Klaus, Maria, and all the others still trapped in transit zones around the world. She thinks about the people who disappeared, whose voices were silenced by systems they'd helped create. Then Sarah does something that surprises even herself. She picks up the tablet, looks Ms. Rivers in the eye, and deletes everything. Every document, every communication log, every piece of evidence she'd gathered. Ms. Rivers nods approvingly and stands to leave. But Ms. Rivers doesn't see what Sarah does next. After 25 days of digital imprisonment, Sarah has learned to be very careful about digital footprints. The data she deleted was just a copy. The real files are somewhere else entirely, encrypted and distributed across multiple secure servers, with instructions to release everything if she doesn't check in regularly. 2 hours later, Sarah Martinez boards a flight from JFK to San Francisco. As the plane lifts off, she watches the lights of New York fade below and thinks about the choice she's made. She's free, but her freedom comes with conditions she's only beginning to understand. When Sarah finally walks out of San Francisco International Airport, she moves like someone who's been underwater for a long time, slowly, carefully, not quite trusting the solid ground beneath her feet. The ordeal is over, officially. Her digital identity has been restored to its proper place. But sometimes, in quiet moments, Sarah finds herself wondering about the other travelers she met in those strange weeks between borders. She wonders if they made it home, or if they're still out there somewhere, caught in digital eddies that the official world pretends don't exist. And sometimes, late at night, Sarah receives encrypted messages from people she's never met, people trapped in their own digital prisons, people who've heard whispers of someone who found a way out. Each message begins the same way. "Sarah, I need your help." Sarah's story raises an uncomfortable question that affects every one of us who travels, who uses technology, who trusts invisible systems with our most basic freedoms. In our interconnected world, what happens when those systems see us not as we are, but as their algorithms think we might be? But Sarah's story doesn't end here. The data she preserved, the network she's discovered, the people still reaching out for help, it's all part of a larger truth that someone very powerful wants to keep hidden. What would you do in Sarah's situation? Would you take the deal and stay silent, or risk everything to help others trapped in the same digital nightmare? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story has made you think differently about the technology we trust with our lives, our faces, our freedom to travel, hit that like button and subscribe. Because the question isn't whether this could happen to you. The question is, when it does, who will you trust to set you free?